Welcome again. We are so glad to have you here. Um, I want you to meet Max, the other Max. And thanks for joining us. I typically have a little set made up, and I wasn't able to do that. And I read this week that you can actually rent a llama for your online meetings, and like they've got a live cam, and you donate. Or that's not a llama. I think it was a goat or something like that. Anyway, you donate money to this rescue farm, and your goat appears in the meeting. And funny enough, I tried to do it for this, but the goats were all booked up. So I said, well, I've got a creature I could bring on. So this is Max. Max is a disapproving corgi. Yeah. So here we go. I'm going to bring Molly on really quick. Oh, actually, no. Sorry. We're not to Molly yet. Sorry, Molly. Keep there. Stay. A quick shout out to our sponsors. We both have AMG Insurance International and Electronic Marine. And we've got a special prize coming up during this little episode. But I just wanted to say thank you to AMG and Electronic Marine. We cannot do these sorts of things, this quality programming that you're watching right now, without the help of our sponsors. And both AMG and Electronic Marine have been great sponsors of ours. And just Carrie, if you're watching, we miss you, and we're sorry that we're not going to have you at the boat show this year, at least the spring boat show. But we hope to see you in the fall. And she's usually right next to us. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to get our editor-in-chief up on the screen with us. Hey, Molly.
Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great.
That's awesome. It's nice to see Max on the screen. Hey, Max.
I know. I don't think Max is having too good of a time. Hold on. I got some treats here. That usually.
Oh, there he is. Yeah. Max is a little bit aloof. He's more cat than dog.
He's more cat than dog. Absolutely.
More cat than dog.
Now, Molly, I vaguely, like, it looks very familiar from where you are. I don't remember it quite. I think I've been there.
Yeah. I happen to sneak into the SpinSheet World headquarters for this particular broadcast because at our not our Century Club, at our crew party last weekend, I had some technical difficulties, and we decided that my Wi-Fi at home might be the weak link. So I snuck into the office and came in with gloved hands, and I've been wiping things down. And but anyway, here we are. This people is where the magic happens. Here, look at that. Command Central. That's my desk. So so that's where I am. And so yeah, and you don't get to see any Molly Winans artwork behind me except in your house.
That's true. Which is that piece way back there. And there's another one. We have two.
So enough about me. Let's talk about the Century Club.
Let's do that.
Thank you to our sponsors, and I second that, Carrie. We miss you. Yes. And we can't wait to see you at the next boat show. But thank you to Electronic Marine as well.
Absolutely. Now, I do want to point out we have a special prize as from AMG Insurance, and that is we are going to we have 3 Yeti. What do we call these things? Tumblers. Just like I have here. I'm a big fan of these things. They're awesome. You've probably seen everybody showing these off before, but AMG has 3 of these, and we're going to give them away to those folks that we choose to use your question on screen. So get some good questions going, and if we use it, we're going to get AMG to send you a Yeti tumbler.
That's right. So the key is ask a good question.
It's got to be a good question.
It's got to be a good question.
Yeah. So anyway.
Should we bring on our guests?
Let's bring on some guests here. Let me hide some folks, including me, and I'll start bringing them on one by one.
Thank you, Chris Charbonneau, our producer of these programs. When he goes back behind the scenes, he's the one who makes it happen, and he's the one who solves all the problems. So he's very important. Hello, Coralina McKenna, our First Century Club member, and her boat dog. What's your boat dog's name?
Beaker.
Beaker.
Beaker, like a chemistry beaker.
Aw, hi, Beaker. I've seen pictures of him. He's very calm. He's very calm on film.
Oh, yes.
We have Eileen Mccausland. Everybody always wants to put an L in there. Eileen Mccausland and Al Patterson, whose name didn't appear there, but I'm glad that they're being safe and they've come complete with their life jackets. They're both Century Club members. And as I recall, you both got 104 days last year. So that's great. Up and from the Southern Bay, we have Moby Richard. Moby, can we hear you?
Hello, SpinSheet world.
Yay. All right. This is very cool. So the people in my office know, and some of our readers may know, that one of my favorite parts of my job is dealing with the Century Club. And I say dealing with, so for so many years it has been kind of me who gets the emails and me who creates the spreadsheet and me who screws up and forgets to put people on the list. And it's me who's forgotten to send burgies out to people. And, you know, it's sort of a big lovable mess. And last year we had 104, maybe 103 Century Club members and a dog. So we doubled what we had the year before. So the Century Club is finally catching on thanks to you guys. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go, let's start with the Northern Bay. We're going to start for our northernmost people on the Bay. And I'm going to ask Al and Eileen, if you guys within about a minute each, if you would just give us a little bit about your sailing background, how you came to sailing, what kind of boats you sail on or have sailed on. I know you guys have a large fleet, so you don't have to list all of them, but you can just give us a clue on how you came to sailing, what kind of sailing you guys both do. And then we're gonna go we'll go down the bay from there, but we're gonna start with the Upper Bay. And where are you on the Upper Bay? Bear Creek?
Yes, Bear Creek, Baltimore County, Southern Shore. Very nice. Near Hard Yacht Cafe. Excellent cafe to go to if you're out cruising.
Oh, and I forgot to ask. What are you drinking here? It is happy hour.
Hardcore Monster.
I have some Lafroig 10-year. Very delicious. Cheers.
All right. Cheers and welcome. All right. So tell me a little bit about your sailing experience and what you guys sail on.
So I grew up in Miami. I see Blake Cabasa on there. What's up? Shout out to Blake. And my first boats were Opties. Sailed every weekend. It was a ton of fun. Mostly just dragged my baler in the water and went slow, but had a great time. Really got into sailing through that. Then I moved on to lasers and 420s. A couple rafts in there as well. And then moved up here to Baltimore for college. Sailed with the Downtown Sailing Center for a few years. Did the sonars, the impulses there. And then finally, eventually, got my own big boat, which is a 1976 Cal 34 named Conifer, which we keep right out here in the back on Bear Creek. You can almost see it in the picture. And along with that, we have a couple of other dinghies. I see Ben Lyon on here, Bear Creek Sailing Association. So we've started amassing a fleet of little dinghies for other people to come over and sail.
I remember you guys had quite the fleet.
Quite a few. So I started in a little different way. My brother had a sailboat that he acquired from a family friend that I helped paint twice and never sailed on it before he passed it on to another friend. But then when I went to St. Mary's and learned how to sail there with a quarter semester class, and then came back little putzing around. I did.
Were you on the team at St. Mary's, or you just learned to sail there?
I played lacrosse while I was there, but I said, I've got to learn how to sail. I'm down here, this is, the Mecca for college sailing. So I had to learn. I just did that and picked up here and there. And then last summer, Mark Hergen picked us up for crew on Morningstar. And then Julianne Fettis, DeGraw Fettis, she is another Century Club member, and she let me sail with her on Wiggy for the Annapolis Frostbite series this year. So and the more the merrier, the more time on the water, the better. So just working my way to get more days on the bay.
All right, that's great. And Coralina, let's go to Annapolis to Coralina McKenna.
Yeah. So
what are
I
you drinking, Carolina?
what was
What are
that?
you drinking? What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a new flavor by Wild Basin, strawberry coconut.
Oh, cheers.
Yeah. And my skinny koozie, compliments of boat show. So I started sailing in Texas on the Gulf Coast in Clear Lake. And I sailed sunfish primarily down there and small dinghies, Vanguards, J24s, some J22s. I moved up here a little over 10 years ago and I got started in the 80 fleet. I was a coach at J-World for a long time. So I don't know, I sailed a lot of J80s. My husband and I own and race a J22, and we have a Tartan 34 C in 1968 with the old atomic 4 engine that we we have like absolutely loved being out on the water on, and our boat dog Beaker is just fantastic on the boat. So we spent a ton of time there. I also I'm active in the Annapolis Laser Fleet, so I did some frostbiting there. And you know, we get out on. I've amassed now a collection of 2 paddle boards, which is useful. Mm-hmm. There's definitely a derelict dolphin in my backyard that I hauled up here from Texas. That I swear every year I'm gonna dust it off and get it out there. It has a built-in cooler. They did it right in the 60s, that's for sure. Yeah, no, we get out on the water. If it's not a regatta, then we're on the tartan. So yeah, that's what we do.
That's great. And Moby, and you guys are all really well-rounded sailors. It's part of what I love about the Century Club, well-rounded sailors and other types of boaters too. So Moby, why don't you tell us a bit about your sailing background?
Well, first of all,
and you're on a boat. We love that.
First of all, I am drinking out of my atomic 4 mug.
Oh,
That has all the specs on the back, and I'm drinking a Dr. Pepper. So you guys, and Dr. Heidi, who is here, is drinking truly hard cider.
All right.
Hard seltzer, I'm sorry. So you guys all have racing backgrounds, and it sounds like you all started fairly young. My story's a little different. I didn't start sailing until I retired, and I owe it all to Jimmy Buffett. I'm a big Jimmy Buffett fan. He sings all these songs about sailing. I knew nothing about sailing. I didn't know anybody that owned a sailboat. The only person I knew was my broker, and he told me, take all these power squadron courses. So I took all these power squadron courses, learned everything I could about sailing and boating, and then I tried to find some lessons. And I'm from Maine, and you would think, oh, no problem getting sailing lessons in Maine. It's a big sailing community. But as an adult male, it was very difficult. There's lots of programs for kids at the yacht clubs. There's a program, Women in Sail. I tried calling them. They wouldn't teach me how to sail. So I lucked out. I found an instructor who was a ski instructor in the winter and a sailing instructor for the kids in the summer at a Parrot Head Festival in Maine. And so he gave me private lessons. I was his first adult student. And I took a bunch of lessons on a Hobie Cat, a lot of fun to sail. And then I eventually bought a Tanzer 22. And everybody said, if you want to learn how to sail, it's a great little boat. I love that boat. But everybody said, if you want to learn how to sail well, race. So the first year I raced, came in dead last every race. But the other races, the thing I love about racing is everybody wants to make you competitive. So they're giving me all kinds of great advice. And the second year I raced, I had brand new carbon fiber sails on a Tanzer 22, which is a little overkill. But one of the things you learn, if you want to win, outspend your opponent. So I came in third that year. And then the next year I raced, I did another thing. which was get ringer crew. So I got ringer crew and came in first. So that was how I got into sailing. Then I bought the boat that I have now, the Catalina 30, which I love, with the Atomic 4. Great little engine. And the goal for this boat was to sail from Maine to Key West and back. And so about 5 years ago, I took the boat down to the Keys, spent the winter down there, and came back. And it was a great trip. Loved it.
Nice.
And then 3 years ago, Dr. Heidi and I moved down here to Norfolk, and we love it here. Brought my boat down, and it's a great sailing community. We do the Wednesday night races out of Little Creek. A lot of fun. Yeah, and we love it.
So Moby,
And-
if I am correct, you've been a Century Club member 2 years?
Yes,
Or-
I'm on my third year.
This will be your third year. Okay.
37th day.
What was that?
37th day today.
Hey, all right. You're on your way. That's great.
Yeah.
So what at the beginning, what inspired you to join the Century Club?
So I found out about it through somebody at Sail Nauticus. I volunteer there. And
we have quite a cluster of SpinSheet Century Club members from Sail Nauticus down there.
Yep. So
Thank
some
you,
of them
Sail
found out.
Nauticus.
Yep. Some of them found out from me, but I found out from Sarah, who was there when I got there. And she had the Burgee, and she was all excited about it. And I go, oh, what is this thing? And she told me about it. It's like, well, okay, I got a goal now.
Mhm.
So yeah, last 2 years in a row.
That's great. How about you guys, the rest of you? What inspired you guys to join the Century Club? I think Coralina last summer was your first, right?
It
Kind of
was.
surprises you. You're active, but
I know. One, I think it was out of laziness because keeping track is really tedious. And I would keep track a little bit, and then I would lose it, and then I think I would get close enough to the end of the year, and at some point I got a big kid job where I wasn't sailing all the time, so that kind of got in the way too. But last year I did another transatlantic, and I thought, well, if this isn't the year that I can get 100 days on the water, I'm never going to get 100 days on the water. That's not going to happen.
and as I recall, you got that last day. It was pretty darn cold when you went out for the last time, wasn't it?
Oh, I definitely took it to the wire. I believe I emailed you on December 31st at 10:30 a.m.
Yeah.
I took my paddleboard to the fuel dock and back.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of remember that was one of your pieces of advice to people who might do the Century Club. Get your days in early because it's going to get cold. That's good.
Yeah.
How about you, Al and Eileen? What inspired you to go? It's the first year for both of you, the second year for both of you.
Yeah.
Will be our second year.
We can both say that Mark Hergen inspired us to do it.
I did it for the free beer at the yearly party. I mean, you got to
Hey,
get.
whatever motivation it takes is okay by us. Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I didn't know about the Burgee until later on. So that's what spurred me to keep doing it.
I think Mark hyped it up well, and then just to see if we could do it, challenge ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm always up for a good fun challenge. But last year I was squeezing in days at the end.
Definitely.
So, I ended on the cold weather, and I said, well, I'm already used to this. So I'm already 50 days deep. So I figured get them in early and then just have fun on the tail end. So yeah, I hope to get 100 before, I don't know. We have to get it early so that I don't have to go so late into this winter.
No, you still have to go late because the whole idea is to get you out on the water more. So
Yeah. So for those of you who are out there who don't know, that Mark Hergen is an active sailor, and he's also an active photographer. If you've heard that name before, he's many of his pictures have been on the cover of SpinSheet, and he is very generous with his photography. Also, he followed Dead Rise Marine Photography on Instagram, and but he must be a good sailor because he certainly has brought a lot of people on the water and brought a lot of people to the Century Club. So thank you, Mark, if you happen to be watching. We appreciate your enthusiasm up there on the Northern Bay, and also always your photos. So you guys up there on Bear Creek, can you tell us what's challenging about the Century Club. You know, so I hear people say all the time, oh, I probably get 100 days on the water. And then they start to count and say, wow, that's kind of hard. So can you share your experience with what the challenges are of 100?
Yeah. Well, I think definitely with the sailboat to strictly, you know, at first we were saying, oh, could we get 100 days just with sailing? And you also have to account for the time for the setup, the put in, the cleanup, all that goes with it, which adds, you know, hours on top of the fun part of it. But for us, we're able to just launch from the house. So that really helps for just the small craft excursions. But, you know, yeah, I think if you're having to drive to and from, you know, where you keep your boat or where you're putting in even a paddleboard or kayak, I think that definitely adds time to your days. So trying to figure out what's the easiest point of access, you know, to be able to put in and take out, and just trying to minimize what you have to do each time you go out on the water so that it's safe and fun, but also cuts down on any of that cleanup time. That helps me at least.
I think part of the challenge is just setting your environment up so that it's easy, that you make the right decision. I mean, it's about like, you eat junk food if it's there, sure. But if you go paddleboarding, if your paddleboard is there, you'll probably do it. And you know, if you don't live on the water, then you have to set your environment up differently. And like, I could take many detours on the way home from work and get to a boat launch, right? And I like to paddle after work. I like to throw the paddleboard in and go for a bit. But I can do that on the way home from work as well. But I think one challenge is just, you may not feel like you want to go out on the water. And then something or somebody has to push you to do it. So I'll come home from work a lot of the time, and Eileen's out paddling, and I'll see her come back in and be like, oh, I'll go help her take the board up. And she's like, it's your turn. I'm like, oh, all right, well, I guess I'll go out too.
Yeah. It's good to have someone to push you.
Yeah, exactly.
The second part of that question I'm going to just address to Coralina. Is there anything that you had to give up in order to reach 100 days? You know, I hear from people sometimes, well, my lawn is a mess, but I got my 100 days on the water. So I wonder if there's, Coralina just disappeared from my view. She's still with us? There she is.
I'm back. I'm here.
Okay, you're back. Did you have to give anything up?
Well, so I'm a school teacher, and there are certainly some papers that took longer to get graded. For sure.
Yeah.
So I suppose I gave up some of my work time, I guess.
Although I have seen you grading papers on a boat before. You sent me pictures of that. So I know you do that at Anchor sometimes with your hubby and your boat.
I do. Yeah, I actually, at least once I just went out and anchored just to grade papers to get away from people because I was really behind. Yeah, no, as far as giving things up, I think there's a, you know, we really love camping and we really love cycling. And we really have too many toys in general. So last year, you know, reflecting on the year, my husband and I were like, well, we didn't really use our camping gear. We didn't really go bicycling. We didn't go mountain bike. We like didn't do all of these things. But I looked back and I was like, yeah, but I went sailing for 100 days. And actually it turned out to be, when I recalculated, because you told me dinghy rides counted, it was 106.
All right.
But yeah, you know, I think it's, there's also, I get it from my friends who say, oh, you know, let's go do this really fun thing. I'm like, oh no, I have this laser event I want to do, or nope, we're going cruising this weekend. It's just like carving out time, which if you're going to get to 100 days, you just have to make the time to do it. So I think there was some, I wouldn't call them missed opportunities because I always have a good time boating, but you know, you're choosing to boat over going to do things on land. So, you know, I don't know. It's a trade-off. They're all fun, but you know, you got to choose the boating one. The water.
How about you, Moby? By the way, everyone in this group is lucky enough to have a partner who loves boating too. So that helps. I know some people who don't, and that's a different kind of challenge. So, Moby, why don't you tell us? Did you have to give anything up or sacrifice something rather to hit your 100 days?
Oh yeah. Let's see. What did I give up? I gave up mowing the lawn and sealing the driveway and sweeping stone dust in the cracks of the brick sidewalk and washing the windows. I think I'm offline now.
No, you're still here.
Hello?
Oh,
I see you.
Am I still there?
Yes,
You're
you are.
there.
Okay. So yeah, I used to own a house. I gave up living on land, and I'm not looking back.
Okay.
So for me, going out 100 days is, yeah, I don't really have to give up anything.
Yeah. Well, cool. So, let me ask you guys this. Was there anything that you did last season on the water that you might not have done had you not been working toward your 100-day goal? What was it, Carolina? What'd you do?
So I mentioned I went on the transatlantic. I also then took like a cross country journey on my way back, I was like, I'm just going to fly to a bunch of places. And I went to visit my brother in California who lives in a reservoir. And they had recently bought 2 paddle boards, and I was kind of exhausted it sounds like you shouldn't be exhausted, but staying up for only 3 hours at a time and sleeping 3 hours at a time, you get pretty tired, from doing that. But him and his wife had these new paddle boards, and so they were very adamant that we get out on the water. And so I paddled around like every day that I was in California with my sister-in-law, exploring this new reservoir they just moved to. And I went fishing for the first time from a paddleboard, which was super cool. And just like we went and found a little buoy to tie to and took the dogs and just like sat on paddleboards in the sun in this weird little reservoir in California. And I don't think I would have been so inspired to get out on the water after spending that long out on the water if I wasn't working towards a goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember Al and Eileen talking to you a bit at our Century Club party about sailing in imperfect weather. I know that you did a little bit of that. Can you expand upon that?
Oh,
Yeah.
Al has a good one.
Yeah. So this was probably, I mean, it was one of the most exciting sailing experiences I've had. So I do the Wednesday night races up at Glenmar, and we're heading out one day. We're on Dave Kozera's boat, Liquid Limit 2. It's an S2 9.1 if you've seen it around. I've been sailing with him for a while, and we're on our way out, and we're not really that far from the dock. We're heading out. We put the spinnaker up because we're just kind of calm downwind. We do see a storm rolling in a little bit, but it's pretty far away. So we're good to go. We're going, and then we come to this fork in the river, in Middle River, and the storm was just hanging out on the other side of the fork, not on our side, and it was. We just had sudden gusts of wind, and we had a very brief period where I was like, I'm gonna fall out of the boat. This is crazy. And like my blood was pumping, just an adrenaline shot through me, and then everything was okay, and it was like gone. And it was this just crazy experience of you never know what you're gonna encounter, and afterwards you just kind of think through it and try to understand what just happened. I'm sure everyone has experienced that, and if you haven't, you will.
Yeah. I've realized the calculated risk that you're making when you go out, and is it safe to go out? What's coming ahead on the radar? I would say I had never really looked at that as strongly as I have, because I'm sometimes trying to push the boundary of is it safe to go out? Is it appropriate, or should I, wait and try to go tomorrow or the next day? But I feel like I'm more in tune with the weather and what's going on with the weather in a big way that I honestly, I love to be outside, but I would say being on land when the weather changes is so different than being in the water when the weather changes.
Yeah. And Moby, do you have anything to add about going out in imperfect weather to hit your 100 days before we take a question from the outside?
Well, I think that they made a very good point, is that, yeah, you don't want to take risk. You got to keep an eye on the weather, especially here in Chesapeake, because it moves through pretty fast, and that bay can get nasty real fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so the Century Club to me just gives you that little extra oomph to get out there. So, oh yeah, I could just lounge around today, but you know what? I got that 100 days I got to hit, and I do know when it comes December, you don't want to be going out there just to get a couple extra days in there. So yeah, it's keep an eye on the weather, but get out there.
So we have a question from a fellow centurion, Julianne DeGraw-Fettis, who's asking, does anyone have some creative ways to keep tallying those days on their water with those restrictions in place? And the restrictions in place are in Maryland, not in Virginia. But just wondering, we'll start with you, Coralina, if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, we get 10 days of boat work, so I've already used those. And we do have paddle boards, so paddleboarding is allowed, exercise is allowed, so paddle boards, kayaks, canoes.
Although it's been windy.
It has been
so windy.
We went up
driving me crazy.
Yeah, so I live right next to the Navy Stadium and near downtown Annapolis. And so we have a couple local points, and I actually put in over at Weems Creek and went up the river all the way to Route 50, which was nice if you can find a place to tuck in. It was a really windy day. We actually all struggled to get back once we exited the bridge. But if you can find some, Annapolis is lucky enough to have a bunch of these little dinghy docks and drop-off points throughout the city. You probably might know a better way to find where they all are. But, if you can find those little inlets and get up out of the wind, then, canoes, kayaks, paddle boards, which is pretty much, I think, what we're limited to. I guess
it is right now.
No.
Yeah, unless you get your boat launched and you're taking it to the summer slip right now in Maryland, we are still limited. And hopefully that will change. We have our eyes on it. We'll let you know as soon as that changes. And I did want to let you guys know, and it answers Julianne's question. I was going to bring it up anyway, but we do have some special things that we're special allowances for Maryland all Century Club members for the month of April and on into May. Some incentives, some things that you can do for which we'll count a day on the water, kind of like we count those boat work days. We have some other special ones to announce. So keep your eyes on our Facebook page. On Monday, we're gonna announce some bonus days for Century Club members that other people can. We have another one here. A question for Moby from Blake Cabasa. How long did it take to sail from Maine to Key West? Sounds like an awesome trip. And is that your real name? Awesome name. We're wondering. You have to get that question all the time.
It is a nickname, but it's pretty much the only name I use. I had it way before I owned a boat. My nickname when I was a kid was Mo, and my middle initial is B, so Moby. Everything is a whale. And yes, it was an awesome trip. It took me 3.5 months to get down. But I also stopped and did exploring. I have a little folding bike, so I would go to a place, hop on my folding bike, do exploring. It was a great trip. I loved it. Got to see the boat show in Newport. Got to see the boat show in Annapolis. Spent a week in St. Augustine and Norfolk. I loved it. It was quite an adventure.
Sounds like a great adventure.
Yeah, and the Catalina 30 with the good old Atomic 4 is a great little boat. It handled the trip. It can handle the rougher weather, more rougher weather than what I could handle.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you a question, and Moby, we'll just continue with you since we have you right here. Did you have any moments last summer? Have any moment where you kind of made a boneheaded move on the boat or did something embarrassing or?
Let's see. Not really. I crew out of Little Creek, and there was one day when the weather was really nasty, and I thought for sure they would call off the race, and they didn't. So it's like, okay, we hopped on the boat, we went out, and we got out to the entrance of Little Creek here, and it was like, 5-6 foot seas pounding the boat. And the boat could handle it. It's a Irwin 32, really rugged boat, but nobody had tethers, inexperienced crew. It was rough, and it's like, nope, we're turning around. And I couldn't believe they didn't cancel the race. One boat raced, did a 1 mile course that they had set, raced and got first place. And that really hurt us in the standings.
Yeah,
But,
well, you turned around and went back, so I would call that a success.
I would
It was actually a smart move.
Yeah.
How about you guys? Can you think of anything you did last summer that you're like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that?
Oh, I definitely did. So we did a lot of work on Conifer, our Cal 34, our cruising boat, last winter.
Maybe soon to be racing. We'll see.
Hopefully. And so the first day we're taking it out, we just got the mast back up, everything's getting back together. We went into Maryland Yacht Club. We were going into Maryland Yacht Club's fuel dock, and a little miscommunication. I jumped off the boat too soon, and the nose was coming up in a way and to pull into the dock. But, I just misjudged the jump, and I banged my quad along the dock the first day out on the boat. So, quick trip home and x-ray and make sure everything was okay. That injury stuck with me for a little bit. So I would say I felt a little bit boneheaded, but fortunately, it's a little painful, but back to normal now. So, yeah, accidents happen, miscalculations.
That one was just a combination of a couple of different things going wrong, like the bow line not being long enough where you could stand far enough back where it's safe to jump off, right? Like this was our first day out last season. Bow lines, all the lines get mixed up, and so here, put that line. We'll use that as the bow line.
Yeah. We were rusty.
Communicating about what you're going to do before you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Won't make that mistake
docks
twice.
are dangerous.
Carolina, how about you? Do you guys do everything just perfectly last year, or maybe you?
No, I'm really torn between two, and they both involve really terrible weather. One of them involved me ending up sitting on top of my laser, just floating down the Severn River. The other one involved something seen by all of Annapolis, in which it was the last Wednesday night, I think, and shout out to all my MI2 crew who are about to hear this that are watching. It was the last Wednesday night, I think, and this big storm. I think Moby mentioned like the weather changes like crazy quickly here in Chesapeake, and so this big storm rolled through, and we just caught on the radio that they had canceled racing, and everyone's putting down their kites, and our skipper is like, no, we'll just keep it up a little bit longer. No. And we're all looking at each other like, this does not
Might not go well.
Yeah, and so we ended up having to cut a few lines, and there's a great photo of our boat with like the spinnaker streaming just from the halyard off the boat. It looked like a giant flying squid. And the dumb moment from that was like, I told people, they're like, why did you have your spinnaker up? Why was it not already down? And we're like, it wasn't my decision. Yeah. But it was bad. It was actually really stressful, and thankfully no one got hurt, and the spinnaker amazingly was fine, and it was really creative to get it down. But it's just one of those things where you're like, that was dumb.
Yeah.
That was dumb.
Yeah, I know.
Like we could have been better.
We all do those things sometimes. I think the more you get out on the water, the smarter you get, but also the higher your chances of doing something dumb are. More opportunities to screw things up. So I always like to ask that question because everyone is always pretty honest about the docks they hit and the accidents they had and that sort of thing. So let's talk about glory days. Let's talk about the perfect, most awesome sailing days. Just real quick, we're going to start with Al and Eileen. Can you just tell us about, say 2 just amazing days you had on the water last year on any kind of boat?
So for me, sailing Conifer, Eileen and I were out. It was a calm day, not, probably like 8 to 10 knots of wind, so not much. But I found that we were able to get the sails set and the wheel set where she found her groove, and then I could take my hands off the wheel. Like no bungees, no autopilot, nothing. And we went for half an hour and just walked around the boat and like looked at the sails, looked at the water. It was really calm. You could hear the waves lapping against the bow as you were going along.
That's cool.
It was just magical. And we hadn't found her groove really until then. And it was just like, just popped in her groove and went. It was amazing.
And I'll say, not so much from sailing, but this year with the restrictions and being creative, going out and paddleboarding, and then also using that paddleboard to haul back junk that's floated in the creek, like trash, stuff that I can take out to my trash can every Tuesday. I feel like that's been really just awesome for me to feel, oh, I'm getting out there, I'm doing something for my health and wellness, but I'm also doing something for our environment. That's been really cool to try to, parlay into how I can be more helpful in the world we live in.
Very nice. How about you, Carolina? Can you give us some glory days? Were they on that transatlantic or?
Yeah, there's a really great picture of my dog over here, and I'm like, that day was a great day on the water. But really, though, there was the morning that I woke up. The ocean's really changed a lot. I've done a couple ocean crossings now, and it's really changed a lot in the past decade. And we just didn't see a whole lot of dolphins, which normally you see a lot of dolphins, but there were a lot of Portuguese man o' wars and stuff. And one morning I woke up and, you kind of hear them. And I just walked to the bow to check it out. And there was like 20 dolphins just riding that bow wave. We were in our last few days into Ireland. And it was just really, it was just one of those moments where it's like dawn. There was just enough, there was enough light and sunlight, you could see them. And, but I was still just me on watch. And I don't know, just one of those moments you really take stock of everything and just appreciate the beautiful world we live in and how the boat itself is not really, its carbon footprint's pretty low and the dolphins really love it. And just that we hadn't really seen any. And normally I would have said we would have seen them a lot. And, that's just the world's changing. It was a really beautiful moment.
Yeah. How about you, Moby? Tell us about some glorious days you had out on the water.
Oh, aren't they all glorious?
Well, some are a little better than others, don't you think?
I don't know. So anyway, we love the dolphins too. We're both really into whale watching, and we love the dolphins. So for us, a magical day is getting out there and having the dolphins just swimming by the boat. And we've been on our paddle boards as well, and the dolphins will swim by us on the paddle boards. It's been great. I got to say, one of our most memorable days is as a fundraiser for Sail Nauticus. They have this Frisky on the Whiskey event, which is on the Wisconsin. And unfortunately, this year was canceled. So it's their biggest fundraiser. But we won a silent auction for a trip to San Francisco to sail on the America's Cup USA 76 boat.
Nice. That's cool.
That was absolutely incredible. Beautiful, carbon fiber boat. Just amazing. And the funny thing is, so everybody gets a chance to helm. We get a chance to sail it. It was actually very easy to sail. It just was so much fun sailing. Beautiful boat. But that was just a chance of a lifetime to get out there and sail on San Francisco Bay on an America's Cup boat.
That's one of my very favorite places. So we're getting close to last call. And this question I asked not just for the viewers out there, but I also asked for myself because this is my first year actually attempting the Century Club. So for people who are looking to, who have the goal of the Century Club this year, or maybe thinking, maybe I can do that, maybe I can, I ask, what does it take? What are your tips to them? To me.
Yeah, make every single moment count, right? Like, go out tomorrow. Don't wait. Just do it now. When you have a free half hour, think about if that's enough for you to get on the water wherever you are.
Eileen, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just think you can do it. You know, put your mind to it, put your back into it. You could do it.
How about you, Coralina?
No opportunity is too small. No boat is not the right boat. No moment's not the right moment within reason. But even floating down the Severn on my upside down laser, I was still glad I went out that day. I learned something. Like, there's not a day that you regret going out on the water, really. You know, I suppose there could be a few, but lessons are learned, and you always, it's like exercise. You feel better once it's done, even if you didn't want to do it when you got started.
It's all extra.
Yeah, get out there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
So key thing is,
you just can't pass up an opportunity to get out there. You really can't.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was mentioned earlier too, is making it easy to get out. You know, don't have a whole bunch of junk on your boat that every time you want to go out, you got to stow all this junk and it becomes a chore. Make it so that you can get on a boat, hop on it, and go. So, or whatever boat you have, paddleboard, make sure it's easy to get in the water. Don't make excuses why you can't go. Make excuses why you can go.
I know when we asked Coralina at the celebration at Severn Sailing Association over the winter if she had any tips, and she said, never say no to an invitation.
Yeah.
Say yes to every invitation that comes your way.
I know you know a lot of people with boats.
Well, it does help. You got to start making some friends with boats. So there are two things I would tell you to do. First of all, sign up for our crew finder at SpinSheet.com. You can sign up for the Century Club at SpinSheet.com. You find a tab for Century Club there. And I want to thank you guys for joining us. I believe that that Sharba's our bartender is going to come back and wrap this up. But you know, Al and Eileen calling us from up on the Northern Bay. We have Moby down in Norfolk. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, McKenna and Beaker from Annapolis. It was great having you guys here. We had 100 Century Club members last year, and I see a number of them are commenting. And so maybe we can have another one of these little parties and hear what their progress is. So everybody pay attention to our Facebook page too on Monday, because we're going to post with SpinSheet Century Club extra credit during the pandemic. So we're going to make it easier for everyone to hit their 100-day goal, regardless of the strange situation in the world. So I will say thank you. Stay healthy, everybody, and we'll see you on the water real soon.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks,
So-
Molly. This was fun.
See you, Moby. All right. I think our bartender is about to come back. There he is.
There he is.
Hey.
Hey, that was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. It was nice. It was nice to hear. It was nice to talk to Moby. Well, I would say in person, because it was as close to in person as we've gotten. But so many of these Century Club members, especially down from the Southern Bay, we just have email-only relationship, and I feel like I know them.
I know, right? I know.
But he sends great selfies, and I love the fact that his first mate's last name is Breeze.
Yes.
Hi, Breeze.
I had a feeling that
It's very Dickinson, you know.
Yeah, well, I had a feeling that Moby Richard was not his birth name. I had a feeling. But anyway,
some smart aleck had to ask.
yeah, exactly. Thank you, Blake. And for that question, Blake, you too will win. You will be sent the AMG Insurance Yeti, and as well as Julianne Fettis.
Yeah, and Julianne happened to win our first trivia contest.
You know, I'm beginning to feeling. I think if she keeps at it, she might become a pretty good sailor one of these days.
Might be. Yeah,
But
she's
the
gonna get
total joke, folks. I know Julianne, and she's an awesome, incredible sailor, and a huge supporter of SpinSheet. So,
and she wins stuff because she
wins
participates. So we are going to have another trivia contest. So stay tuned for that next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I did want to just quickly share my screen with everybody because I do want to point out how easy it is to not only get on the, oh shoot, oh no, I messed up. Hold on. Can you see this? Are you seeing my screen?
Not yet.
Oh, hold on.
I see your face glowing in the computer screen, though.
Oh, see, this is the fun part where I get to screw up everything that was going so pretty smoothly.
Good.
Let me see this. And I'm going to do something really cool. Watch this. Watch the screen. It goes all the way down.
Me watching you.
It's like mirrors. It's a house of mirrors. But I'm going to share this tab. Do you see Google now?
Google, yes.
Okay. So go to SpinSheet.com. And there we are. This is our homepage, folks. And you'll see up at the top is our ribbon. And you'll see on the menu there, Century Club. Click on that. And you'll be able to come in there. If you don't participate in the Crew Finder or the SpinSheet Racing Team, if you don't have an account with us, you'll have to create an account. But once you do that, you can start logging your hours, or excuse me, logging your days. And the SpinSheet Century Club leaderboard, though, is just a place where everybody can come in and check out who's doing what. So we've got Kelly McMurray. He's got 75 days. But I just want to point out Lily Gensler. Lily didn't even know about this. Hey, look, Moby Richards got 37 days. Just saying. But Lily didn't know about this, and I was like, you need to get on the leaderboard. And this is just a fun place for people to come in, log their days, and you can actually click into these things. I doubt Lily's actually given an update, but there she goes.
We should note to people that it's definitely much easier to do on your computer rather than on your phone, because we have had some people struggle with it on their phone. So I would say log your days from your computer. Yep.
But you see, Lily looks like she's been doing a lot of days fishing, and on paddle boards, and so it's not just about sailing, folks. It's about just getting out there. So
yeah, one of our Century Club members did all of his days kayak fishing. Yep. And another one of them did all of them paddleboarding with her dog. In fact, she logged 200 days last year. Caitlin Holman or something like that is her name. But anyway, she and her dog Nala logged all their days on a paddleboard.
Well, and it's funny too, because Molly, you and I work for a boating magazine, and neither one of us has ever gotten the Century Club.
My year, I'm doing it.
We're doing it. I'll tell you right now.
Tomorrow morning. There's not any wind. I'm going paddling.
Yeah, but so anyway, I want to first of all say thank you to everybody that came and watched this, and especially to our guests for taking the time to talk with us and tell us about their experience on the water. Of course, big special thanks to AMG International and to Marine Electronics. Really appreciate their support. If you folks get a chance, it's really tough kind of being a free magazine when businesses aren't open. So if you know somebody hunkered down and they're feeling like, gosh, I just want to get out on the water, and I'm sure you know somebody, tell them to go to SpinSheet.com and read the digital issue. And you can actually sign up for that, sign up for our newsletter, and you'll get an announcement every time the new issue comes out of SpinSheet, or Prop Talk, or Fish Talk, whatever your pleasure. And outside of that, Molly, do you have anything to throw in there?
I would just say have a great weekend, everybody. Cheers. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming to our happy hour. We love doing these happy hours, and we love seeing the comments on Facebook, and it's just a way to be with our friends in this very strange time. So
yes,
we'll see you on the water soon. Okay, we'll keep you posted on all the news. And cheers. Happy weekend, everybody.
Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Don't miss another SpinSheet video. Subscribe to our channel today.